Lucky Boys Podcast.
So you guys know each other for a long time.
Yeah.
College, yeah.
College. Okay. So late 30s. Well, what am I working with here?
I'm 30. I'm turning 39 in a
39.
week.
Okay.
Or two.
I was
2 weeks.
39 once.
Yeah.
30.
Yeah, it was great time, man.
Wait, you're not in your 30s?
I'm past that.
Oh, he's like fucking 60,
40,
bro.
42.
That's Asian
Asian
genes.
yeah.
Asians don't raisin, you know.
I
He
just
started
turned 42.
Nama.
Yeah.
Damn, 1920s, 1930s.
Yeah, you can't see. You don't see these wrinkles by my eyes, man.
Oh my gosh.
Is that moisturizer I'm using?
You gotta let me know what kind of moisturizer you use. Test 1, 2.
All right.
We're
Yep.
Gucci.
We're
3,
Gucci.
2. Welcome to Lucky Boys Podcast. I'm Will.
And I'm Norm, and we have a very special guest today, Wilson Tang, restaurant guy of Namwa.
Hello.
Boop, 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 boop.
Thank
Right?
you for having us in your
Well, your
little
basement
restaurant. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
office.
The basement under the restaurant.
basement. Yeah, I mean, this is typical, right?
It is New York City.
Yeah.
Where you, for those of you guys not in New York City, if you guys ever walk by New York City or see it in the movies, they got all of these grates on the sidewalks, and usually they're right in front of the restaurant, and that's where they keep most of their supplies.
Yeah.
Below.
Or office or
Dead bodies.
Yeah, or dead bodies.
Or the secret sauce.
Secret sauce, yeah. But like you said, New York, you have to use every single square foot of space that is available. So I'm grateful to have an office like this. We actually have 2 offices, but the other one, like the heater broke, so this would be the next best option for us today.
Well, great, yeah, because I never did a podcast with my jacket on and full gear. It's cold today,
Yeah,
man.
it is cold today.
I think we got into single digits for New York City.
Yeah.
Anyway, Wilson Tang, you are the owner of Namwa, known as the oldest standing dim sum restaurant in Chinatown.
Yes, that is correct.
What else do we need to know about Namwa? Where did it start?
So Namwa, established 1920. I am part of the second family that's running it, 3rd generation. But it is officially the oldest restaurant in Chinatown, Manhattan's Chinatown, the first dim sum restaurant in Chinatown. I've been running it for the last 10 years. Prior to myself, my Uncle Wally ran it for over 50 years. And in the 70s, he bought the business from another family, the Choi family, which still has roots in Chinatown, believe it or not.
Oh, are they running another business there? Or?
Yes, one of the cousins they're a dentist in Chatham Square, which is just a stone's throw away from the restaurant. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And now your restaurant is in a very interesting location. I guess it's known for, in terms of PR, it's great. It's known as Murder Alley.
Yep.
The several nickname was another one. The
Bloody Angle is another one. Yep.
And we talked about this in a previous podcast. It got its name because of all the gangs in the past. And I guess when you came around to it, it wasn't the same reference, because obviously gangs have died down a lot. However, still very prevalent at that time, right? When you were coming in.
I think the gang stuff pretty much stopped since Giuliani was the mayor of New York. What is this, like 20 years ago? I want to say, like the last time I remember was probably like the 90s. Growing up in Chinatown, in the 80s and 90s, that was a rough period in Chinatown with all the gang violence, or just gangs in general. And I remember listening to your podcast, a couple of guests before me. That's some of that.
Right. Right.
The gang stuff. But I think the last 20 years have been pretty normal, business as usual. Last 10 years, nothing like that at all. I know in my uncle's time, there was always payoffs, little like under the table money, like protection money of sorts, but definitely not in my tenure at the restaurant as the current gatekeeper of sorts. It's been pretty smooth, and that gang stuff is more of like you say, a PR thing, and a lot of our customers are either visiting New York or in New York for the first time. So that's like a story, and I remember many a times, especially in the summer when I'm hanging out in front of the store, just talking to the locals and other merchants. You'll see like a tour guide walk past and like talk about the murder alley. And I always like try to stick my ear in and make sure they're not like botching the story.
Because they do. I've also
or exaggerating some parts of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But I find that very interesting. It's very New York, and I think that I owe some of my success to that. It's almost like free advertising, because we get all prior to COVID, we got all walks of life coming into the restaurant, and it was very interesting to hear these things. And I remember, they sometimes they'll talk about me like, oh, this new kid that came in and took over the restaurant, his name is Wilson. And I'm like, yep, that's me right over here. And like, whoa.
Oh, you would hear it like eavesdropping.
Yeah, because I'm always eavesdropping, making sure like the story is like legit,
Yeah.
So I try to have fun with it. But, it's a great block. It's, for those who are not from New York, it's one of the first streets in Chinatown, which includes Doyers, Pell, and Mott Street. So that's the center. That's where Chinatown in New York really started.
Yeah.
And, through all the decades, it's gone through many phases. Like when we talk about like early on, on the corner of Pell and Doyers is this big wall, and people used to put on like notes from like things going back at home in China, like all the news they would put on the wall. And my uncle kind of served as a like took mail for people, was really the hub of a place to eat, because like there wasn't as many options back then. And now it's really there's Chinatown has grown obviously, but back in the days it was really that main quarter, like Doyer, Pell, Mott Street was the beginning.
It's iconic. I see not only in news channels but in music videos, from hip hop to rock, movies, commercials. They're constantly using that area, and it looks great visually when you're trying to represent Chinatown. Especially from a dangerous aspect. They do it one of two ways. I usually either see it as a throwback to, because it does have this dangerous old school Chinatown vibe, this alleyway, and you can't really see the bend of what's behind it.
Yeah.
Or they film it as okay, this is classic Chinatown. We're going by one of the most iconic areas, and we're taking this shot.
Yeah, If for those who again are not have never been to Chinatown before, like if you walk down Pell Street and look and make that turn onto Doyers, it's really a nice. It almost looks like a movie set of sorts.
Yeah.
And we haven't done many movies lately, but we've definitely had our fair share of movies like Spider-Man to Law and Order, like all sorts of production on the block. And you're right, at night, right now, like a lot of music videos, and I've even seen on Facebook like car meetups, like they would just kind of
on that block. How it's so narrow.
Yeah, like just like a car crew will like drive over and like kind of park their car like in a way to like take pictures of it.
Oh, I see.
It's kind
I
of
see.
cool. It's
So they
kinda
have to get
cool.
up on a sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm all good with that because it brings attention to my restaurant and people are, oh hey, that's the dim sum place that's always in the news or whatever. So it's great. I mean, there is like raunchy stuff too, you know, like there's just like, you know, like people are doing their rap videos and like doing that kind of, you know,
Yeah.
production of sorts with cars and girls and things like that.
I think a lot of Asian Americans or Asians in general come from immigrant backgrounds can relate to your story, where their family was either, I mean, I think they all know someone where either they had a family member that either owned a restaurant or worked in one.
Yeah, I mean that's your typical immigrant story. I mean, I look at my own parents. You know, immigrated from my dad's from Guangzhou, southern China, and my mom's from Hong Kong. Coming to America as first generation immigrants, you really you know, without knowing the land, without knowing New York, without knowing the language, you're really you don't have much options as far as work is concerned. So you're either working at a restaurant or a laundromat
Or a seamstress.
Seamstress, yeah. So that's exactly how my parents were. Like my dad was in the food business. My mom was a seamstress, worked at like a eyeglass store for a little bit.
Yeah.
So I mean, those are stories that you'll hear time and time again about that immigrant struggle or like the first time immigrant. That's what they did.
Right.
You know, they almost didn't have a choice. They're you know, this is a land of opportunity. Okay, we're here. All right, we have to make the best out of it and do these low-paying jobs and figure out what's next.
Right. Now, having that upbringing, it's so easy for a lot of people, especially during our time, to not get into trouble. I mean, the opportunity to get into trouble was vast. And, I mean, it was so easy to be bored back in the day. We didn't have all this stuff and just fall into the wrong group somehow. How did you avoid all of that, especially being like at the center of it all?
Well, I think for me, what my parents did was really move me out of Chinatown at an early age. So from grade school, like first grade, I was already in Queens in a, you know, it was Ridgewood was a neighborhood. Wasn't that great back then. Now it's gentrified.
It's nice, yeah.
Yeah, but it was you know, back then in the 80s, it was like that was suburbia. You know, leaving Chinatown, and like I had a yard, I had a white picket fence. You know, there was a garage. That was kind of luxury already for my parents to move out of Chinatown like that. And you know, I went to Catholic school, Catholic grade school, Catholic high school.
So did I.
Yeah,
For both, yeah.
and that was them, you know, doing their part to get myself out of the Chinatown scene. And you know, I'm grateful for that. I think that has taught me just a lot as far as you know, taking care of myself. You know, I back then you're allowed to like have your house key and you just go home after school, unlike now. So I remember, you know, making a lot of my own meals, like fourth, fifth grade, sixth grade. I'm home alone, like, you know, a lot of time in front of the TV, and that's mainly how I think all of us grew up. If you're, you know, older than 30 years old, but you know, I wouldn't trade that for the world. You know, I think that's what gives us creativity, you know, patience, and just work ethic. You know, like I
Sure.
love working hard, and these are the things that I try to instill in my kid, sitting right next to you. Right?
Yeah, what's up, Ryan?
How you doing, Ryan? You playing games? Okay.
Wow, you finished it already.
Nice. So yeah, I bring him to work, just so he can see what I'm doing. And, I might get a lot of like crap for saying this, but I think that the generation between us and him, it's a little different. They're very like that, like in front of a screen. Parents maybe have done a little better for themselves, and they don't know the struggle as much. So I make it a point to bring him with me constantly to just show him what's going on at work. He helps out with some of the like minor, boxing and little detail stuff.
I know what you're talking about. I was like
Yeah.
that with my dad. I would help him out with all the minor little things I can.
Yeah, so this is me trying to just build some work ethic in him, because that's exactly how I grew up. Like my dad, had a restaurant, a supply store. Like he was supplying restaurants with like a Costco for restaurants. And I would go on the weekends to help him and like move boxes and bring things to customers' cars. That was my teenage years, growing up, and I think that's what gave me just the edge as far as being an entrepreneur and a businessman.
There's something very inspiring about seeing your parents work. And I know for me, personally speaking, watching my dad hustle, get up at 6 a.m, go to the restaurant, prepare, and just from 6 a.m. to 10 at night when he closes, and then afterwards he would have to clean the restaurant. Right?
Yeah.
And I would take naps in the middle of the day in the office that they had in the back. And when we get home, it'd be pitch black and it's already midnight. I'm tired. And my dad lets me sleep in. And at 6 a.m, I hear him singing, showers up, and he just can't wait to get ready to tackle the next day. And what I thought to myself was, why is he so happy? I mean, this guy barely slept, worked his tail off. I mean, he's jumping in between being a cashier and going in the back cooking and then taking care of customers. Some customers want him to come out so he can speak to them. And he's taking orders on the phone. And I just thought to myself, this is crazy. This is absolute. And then when everything's done, he turns into a janitor. So you're an entrepreneur, janitor, chef, everything. And the way it makes me look at it, when I was a kid, I just couldn't believe it. And watching my dad, I thought he was Superman. To me, he was Superman, watching him. And when I told my dad at 12 years old, I was like, hey, Dad, what do you think if I go into the restaurant business? And he says, no, no, not for you. Not for you. He's like, I'm working this hard so you don't have to.
Yeah, I remember having that same conversation. Not at that age, but when I decided to embark in food and beverage or hospitality, his comment to me was like, "You're crazy. We work so hard to put you through school, and this is what you want to do, run a restaurant." And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I love hospitality. I love feeding people. I love that hustle of, and I think earlier in my career, I used this example, which was, I love buying something for $1 and then add a little value and then, or cook it, right? Buy some food for $1, cook it. Now I sell it for $2.
You're a food flipper.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, food flipper.
And I that's the example I use, and I'm like, yeah, I love that making money mentality,
And renovating food.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
and that's been with me for the last 20 years. Just trying to figure out what to do to make money, because I took that route, the school route, and like the white collar job route, and it just wasn't, similarly to you guys, it's just not for me. It wasn't for me. I mean, I can do it, but
Right. But you have, it'll be eating away at your soul.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Like a
and
piece of you.
like I'm so glad I didn't like conform, right? And interestingly, I think for myself is, I think what I did is very normal now. You know, like in especially in like Asian culture where, oh, you go to school, you should get a job, you should be a doctor, you know, lawyer, blah, 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 pharmacist. I think breaking that mold these days is actually very common, more so than when we were growing up or when I was growing up, because back then from my parents' point of view as an immigrant, that was not cool.
Highly
right?
unacceptable.
Yeah, not good. And I had to really prove my dad wrong, especially with Namwa, because I had failed once in the restaurant business, and I had to go back into corporate and then wait for this opportunity to come back. And I remember my dad saying to me, dude, like, you're taking over this restaurant that pretty much is like on its last legs. It's grungy, it's grimy.
Namwa, right?
Yeah, Namwa.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the last 10 years Uncle Wally's been running it. Like it's just his like hangout spot, and he'll do some movies and serve a little food, but he owns the building. So you're in for a rude awakening, like taking this over. I'm like, but Dad, I'm like 30, 31, I'm about to get married. Like I got this one bullet in the chamber, and if I don't fire it, I don't know if another opportunity like this is gonna come again. So I did it, and like one of the main things was to really prove him wrong. And luckily, with a lot of hard work, I proved them wrong tenfold.
How did you have that conviction, though, having already failed once,
Yeah, I just
to get back in the fight and actually win?
I just disliked working for someone. I couldn't do it. I had that taste of freedom the first time. So to roll the story back a little bit, like in 2007, I had opened a little like coffee shop bakery on the outskirts of Chinatown. And I did that for 3 years, but I was never able to make ends meet. Like I would make a little bit of money, it's fine, but I'm there like your dad, 6 a.m., open up, bake the bread, get the meat marinated, open for service, you know, close at 6, 7, be the janitor, get the stuff ready for the next day. And it was 7 days. When things got a little better, okay, I bring on another person, and now we're breaking even. Or like when business is not as good and I've got an extra employee, now we're losing a little money. I was never able to really
Get it to take off.
And it was just right there at the just breaking,
it's always
getting
just
by,
good enough.
getting by. But like I remember saying to myself, man, like, all right, I just paid myself whatever it was, but if I divided it by the hours I worked,
Oh boy,
shit, it's like $5 an hour or something
slave
like
wage,
that.
right?
Yeah. But I was so into the fact that I was my own boss.
yeah. And I saw that in my dad's eyes every single
That's
day.
why he was so happy, whistling in the
He
morning,
was so happy,
singing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it almost didn't matter. Like I didn't care. Like, you know, so what? I'm making $5 an hour. So what? I'm just happy I don't need to listen to anyone. I don't have to listen to the man. But fast forward to the Namwa thing. I was given the opportunity, and I thought the timing of it was perfect. I was just about to get married. I had completed a couple of like just life goals, which was to participate in a marathon. I did a bunch. I did like over 10. To do a triathlon. I got up to doing a half Ironman. And I think personal goals, I was like, all right, I got these things under my belt, and now it's really time. Like wifey's like on the side, like, all right, the wifey side I've got, life goals I've got. I got to focus 110% on this restaurant thing, because if I don't, it's going to eat at me for the rest of my life. And you know what? If I fail, at least I tried, and I can put that in my back pocket. I'm like, yo, I did it. Didn't work out. All good. back to the grind, back to the 9 to 5, and let's wait for the next opportunity.
But at least you have closure.
Yeah, I have closure. But 2010, we started like the just the reconstruction of sorts, like fixing up the kitchen, cleaning up the place, to open Chinese New Year 2011. And with a blink of an eye, it's been 10 years. But I think I was not for. We can talk about the hard work and stuff, but I think it was a lot. It was a combination of just luck, the internet, and just a good starting team. Good starting team meaning like I had the chef that was working with my uncle for like from the 80s. Like and he's still on board with us now. So like the food side was going to be solid. Then the the internet part, like that was right when like the internet was popping off, like 2010. And I remember, and I tell the story a lot, is I'm like, oh, you know what? Facebook is this new thing, 2010. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make a Facebook page and like document the reopening of Namwa Tea Parlor. So I was like taking pictures and uploading it onto like the Namwa page. Oh, look, we got a new kitchen equipment today. Oh, look, we cleaned the floors today, and look how nice these vintage floors look. And someone from the Daily News basically picked up on the Namwa Facebook page.
Nice.
And she actually was like an editor for the Daily News. And she's like, oh my God, I went to this restaurant when I was a kid with my grandpa, like decades ago. And it's so awesome to hear that it's reopening under new management and whatnot. I'm like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. Like, Gretchen, like, amazing. Like, let's keep in touch. And lo and behold, like the week we opened, I'm in like the Daily News, like Sunday Daily News, like you open the newspaper, like right smack in the middle, like I'm like got my arms crossed like this,
looking badass as hell.
Leaning against like the.
You got the whole page. You got the whole page.
Yeah,
going
two
on?
page. Wow, double page. I'm just like chilling like this.
I would have that framed somewhere.
Yeah,
just like
I got
Asian
it.
Boss man.
I got it. And that's when I say like internet, right? Like that really put me on the map.
Yeah, that's when social media was finding its identity, becoming social media.
Yeah, dude. And that just, I am such a yes man. Like, even when Norm's like, hey, you want to come on this podcast? I'm like, fuck yes.
Fuck yeah, man.
Yeah. But that just led from one thing, it led to another, like Daily News, yes. New York Times, yes. Wall Street Journal, yes. So
it started with Daily News, and then it kind of just spread across the other news cycle?
Spiraled, and then like I was...
Did you reach out to the other news vendors, or did they...
No, it was all organic.
So one of them picked up the story, and the rest of them said, this is a great story, let's get it.
Yeah, because it's your New York story.
So you must have been like, this is it. When that happened, once the Daily News happened, and then you started gaining momentum, you must have been like, holy shit, this is it. This is it.
Yeah, and I was 32 at the time, and man, like it's been like, I think back now at 42, I'm like, wow, what a ride that was. Like that 10-year clip has been really, really eventful, fruitful. Wins, losses, you name it. It's under my belt.
Right.
So was it even a year in business before the whole Daily News thing, or was it in the beginning?
Daily News was the week we opened, and then
right at the beginning.
And then that was February. In May, I was in New York Times. At that point, it was the 25 and under column, and man, like for those who don't know, like New York Times, that is like next level. Like people, that's all people read is the New York Times dining section, and that really got the people coming in. And when I say people coming in, I mean, all walks of life, from like, dude, you know what? I was at this restaurant when I was in law school, like a struggling law student. I'm like got my practice now in LA or wherever, like anywhere around the world. I've heard stories down to like 4 generations. Like, oh, grandpa used to come here, and they brought grandpa down to like the son all together to come eat at the restaurant for the memory. In June, I was on the cover of the dining section of the New York Times as one of the there was a profile on like 4 or 5 restaurateurs that are second generation, and my face again, like on the cover of the dining section. Like, can you imagine, like, chefs, like high level chefs, kill for like a spot like that? And
Bro, did you get any like hate mail?
No hate
You're
mail.
so undeserving. Oh my gosh.
well, I think underneath a lot of people's breath, yes, but it was definitely like all good, well deserved, and that really kind of kept putting us on the map. And
was Uncle Wally like, hey, let me get you the restaurant back?
Yeah, I mean, like he was coming in a lot in the early days, just to make sure like that handoff was like straight,
A warm
yeah.
transition.
And
What did your dad say?
so dad, had his corner seat, corner table, and observed, and like
Wow.
finally, without saying anything to me, the word on the street was like, yo, that your dad's like super proud of you, because he would never, to this day, never tell me like, yo son, good job, man.
Isn't that crazy?
Yo, that's
Asian
Asian
dads,
parents.
come
Yeah,
on,
man.
man. You gotta give them that one at least, Asian dads.
Yeah. So, but word on the street is like, when my dad was a guy in Chinatown, New York, and like he was running his own restaurant supply wholesale business. So people know who he was. But to hear his colleagues or his the people in his circle tell me that, yo, your dad's really proud of you, I'm like, that's right.
He's definitely bragging.
That's right.
He's definitely bragging about you.
Yeah,
I would.
like-
I'm like, look at my son on the New York Times.
Yeah, look, he's
dining
like
section.
not forget about the English stuff. Look, he's in World Journal or Sing Tao Daily.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I can't read that stuff, but cool.
Yeah.
So that was definitely like a very it was very memorable for me to really, to get that nod, not explicitly, not like, hey, good job, kid, but more like, oh, if the paper supply guy told me that, like, came to me and said, oh, your dad said, oh, holek jayo, which means like, oh, very smart kid.
Very smart kid. And then that's a literal translation, but that just means that I'm really proud
Yes.
of
Yeah.
my son or child.
Yeah. So that was the beginnings. Like we kind of crushed it with the social media, and social media wasn't a thing yet. It was just starting 2010, 2011. And I kudos to my chef. We are very, very consistent with our food. It is, it's not the best. It's not tweezer food. We're not putting truffles on shrimp dumplings. We're not doing anything cutting edge or like fancy. But we offer very consistent dim sum that is affordable, and that it tastes good.
Right.
But it's not like, wow, mind-blowing food. It's just very, very consistent.
It's dependable.
Yeah, dependable. And I think I always have this example, like if you have, like, this is the amount of people in New York, like from, like, this is, for those who are listening, I have like my hands maybe like a foot, how do I even explain
Apart.
A foot apart. And this represents the 8 million New Yorkers, right? On the top is like your fine dining, like the people that are like very, very like
Michelin rated.
Yeah, Michelin or like very snobby. And at your bottom is your dollar slice, right? I just really need that sliver of people that are willing to pay $5 for an order of shrimp dumpling. Mind you, shrimp dumpling like 10 years ago, like $2.50, $3, and like, whoa, you're $4?
Yeah.
That's so expensive. I'm gonna go there. I'm like, cool, man. You go do that. So in that scheme, in my example, like, you're like right below my target audience. I want this sliver of people that can spend $5 for a shrimp order of shrimp dumpling, or $25 per person, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want anything more. I don't want anything less. So all the bottom feet, I don't want your business. I really don't want your business. You know what? You want to pay $3.50 for shrimp dumplings? Hey, go. I'm not going to name any names. So go to that place. They have a really good $3.50 dumpling.
Right.
Or if it's not good enough for you, I'm like, yo, go here. This place got an excellent $9 dumpling. I just wanted this, and I am.
Why was that? Why is that?
Well, in my eyes, like all these New Yorkers, I don't need to think lower. I don't need to think higher. I just want to capture this audience, and that's all I need. And that's what success for me would be. I don't need to please the people that think I'm too expensive, and I don't need to do more to the people that they want like better ingredients or like better service. I just want to be right here, and that's all I need to be successful in New
How
York.
did you know that formula would be lead you to a path towards success?
I honestly don't know, but I knew numbers, right? And like if I can maintain a certain amount of customers a day willing to pay this amount of money, because honestly, like Chinatown, and especially like our ethnicity, like our culture, like, oh, you're $5, or I'm $4.75. Well, you're $4.75. Well, I'm going to be $4.
Right.
And in my experience, the Chinese kill the Chinese, and I knew I did not want to be part of that equation. Like, yo, dude, you want to do $2.50, $2.80? Yo, go do your thing, man. Like, more power to you. I'm going to actually send you customers, because I really wanted to just tackle the people in this sliver, New Yorkers in this sliver.
And I think it also brings like a certain look to your brand. And I mean, looking back at it now, it obviously does, because you, like you said, you didn't just attract the segment that was just looking for a quick bite that was super cheap. You attracted all sorts of people, and having that cachet of being on the front cover of New York Times Dining, I mean, they're going. I mean, people that are reading that editorial, they're not going, oh, it's $5. It should be $4. As far as they know, that's, it is what it is. I don't care. I just want to try this guy's stuff out.
Yep.
And also, I think like when you jumped into the whole social media aspect of things, right? Like that important communication to the younger generation, other restaurants didn't have that kind of communication, right?
Yeah. So even to this day, in a pandemic where we're doing a podcast in a pandemic, and there's still mom and pop shops in the neighborhood that don't have a website, that don't know how to use social media the right way, and they're nonprofits, like people that were on your show prior to me, like Welcome to Chinatown and Send Chinatown Love, that are helping these merchants figure out and maneuver like the World Wide Web,
Right.
And honestly, I think that was what I was able to use to my advantage, was like, hey, I don't know all of it, but I'm willing to invest my time into figuring this social media stuff out, to a point where we have a social media person that does all of our social mediaing, but yeah, I saw that's one of the first things I did. starting a new place. Okay, website. Okay, all our information is on a web. And there, to this day, there's still places that don't have a website, and like it's just not the.
They're just not comfortable with that. They don't understand. To them, it's like it's alien to them.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge mistake, especially in the food space. Like if you don't have a presence, hey man, it's a New York story. If you don't, you're gonna get left behind if you're not with the times.
Yeah, that's so true. One thing for sure is that change will always occur, and that you need to adapt and move with it, or else you'll be left behind. That said, fast forward, this adventurous, joyous ride you've been having to now, where COVID happened about a year ago when we first hit our doorstep, and people started looking at Asians, or specifically Chinese people. Well, actually, they didn't even care. You could, as if you were of Asian descent, and our eyes all did the same thing. They were just like, your fault. They didn't even care if you were American. They're going after your fault. You know what? And even if they weren't saying it was your fault, immediately they don't want anything to do with you. And that was, action speaks louder than words, because they started staying away from all of the Asian restaurants.
Yeah.
What was that like a year ago for you?
Man,
were you like, the party's over?
No. It's so funny because this is just a year ago, but it seems so damn long. It's
been a long year.
It's been like a grind. I think for me personally, I'm very I don't let that stuff like get to me. I'm very man, I'm at a loss for words right now. But
were you? I'm saying, just the business side of things, because you had a 10-year run, a strong 10-year run, right? And going into it, COVID, where there's talks of shutdowns, there's talks about there's so many unknowns, but what people do know, especially in Chinatown, the business owners, are that people weren't coming anymore, and that foot traffic has become so light, and that they're having major challenges making ends meet and keeping people employed.
Yep.
And for restaurant owners, the people that they employ, a lot of the times been there for several years with them throughout this whole journey, and they become like family. Everything about them. You guys get sick together, you guys get married, have kids, and you see all the ups and downs. You guys become extremely close.
Yeah.
And now they're having to make the tough decision. Like, I could barely afford to keep these lights on, and you have to let someone you care deeply about go. You're pondering that decision. Like, so at that stage there, what was it like?
Well, I think everyone knows that like New York's shutdown was like March 16th was the first day of the lockdown. And again, it's like, this is just it's not even a year ago, but it seems so long ago. For me, I think everyone, all my staff was obviously aware. Everyone has like someone in China, and like they're getting all this news already that it's really bad there. And it's part of, like, I want to say, like, part of my culture, our culture, to really live within our means as sons of immigrants, right? And there was not much conversation about it. I know, like you said, a lot of these guys that work for me have long tenures with me. We have people that's been here since day one. And I think part of our culture is save money. And I know when times are good, everyone was saving their money. They've got their living situation figured out, and we're gonna go into hibernation. And it was okay, because no one wants to take the train in March, April, like no one wants to do that, especially with all the xenophobia, like all the random acts of violence on the subway and on the street. So out of precaution of safety, we were all on the same page. Go get your unemployment, go get your money right. We will reconvene when the time is right. And it was very understood, and everyone from top to bottom all were on the same page because we are a family. And when I eat, they eat, we all eat. But when I don't eat, I'm gonna do what I can. Like we paid out for the I think we paid out to the end of the month or something like that, and we hibernated, and we opened back in I think 2 months, May 17th. I remember the date. 2 months. We took 2 months off.
2 months off.
And they got unemployment. They're able to figure it out. Living within their means. These are immigrants. Like these are my parents. Like my parents' age, and I know how they save money and ration things and kind of pull things out of the cupboard.
The survivors.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's just in our nature. That's in our DNA. As immigrants.
And you had to do that for multiple locations, right? Because you own more than one restaurant. It's not just the one on Doya, right?
Well, here's the thing. We had to do that for Parlor, the OG restaurant, because of the staff is older. It's just natural. Like they're
more at risk.
They're more at risk because COVID is hitting the elderly or 50s and above, 60s and above more. Whereas my other locations in New York, we have this location which is in the Nolita neighborhood of Manhattan, that stayed open throughout.
Right here?
Yep, this stayed open.
I
throughout.
love this location.
Yeah, because
I grew up 3 blocks from here.
Oh yeah, that's what Norm said, right?
Yeah, we live around here.
Norm grew up across the street.
Across
really?
the street, on the land St. Christine.
Oh, okay. You're like neighbors.
And we never met each other till college. We were 500 miles away.
I know.
That's
small world.
Yeah, small world. Yeah. But this location, mainly because it's not much sit down. This is our fast casual. I want to for those who are not in the known restaurant lingo. This is we have a kiosk. You order what you want, and you get out. We were able to continue opening, and we had just a way younger staff here. Like the staff here, the average age was 30, not 55. And they're like, "Hey, boss, we'd like to just keep working if you don't mind." I'm like, "Hey, go do your thing. Stay open." And we kept this open throughout. And the numbers dipped for sure, but it was enough to pay the rent, enough to pay the labor, and it wasn't bleeding. So we kept it open, and it turned out to be a good idea, to be, be of service to the neighborhood. It was one of the very few places that was open throughout the pandemic. But again, it was more because of staffing. The staffing was young. They're all kind of single people living by themselves, and they didn't have multi-generational households. So it was actually easier to keep this open. We have another location at the Market Line on the Lancy by the bridge. That one's closed because it's in it's almost like a food hall, so that hasn't opened yet. So that's been closed. And Philly, same thing. Philly, we have a very, very small team there, 3 people. It was closed for 2 months, and then we opened, and then we kind of just ramped things up slowly, but very tight team. And just takeout, it's fine. It's in the outskirts of Philly, Chinatown, so it's got its own clientele that drives, picks up, and there's no needing to take the subway or people in each other's faces. Right. But here in Chinatown, just a little more, the thought process is okay, how do we make this a safe environment? And we figured it out. We're open 7 days now, but very scaled back hours. It's almost where it's one shift. It's 12 to 8, 7 days. So we try to open a little later so that the staff doesn't need to all come in early and take the train together, and we close a little early for as a restaurant, so they're not subjected to taking the train late at night.
Yeah, so you guys have become more lean during these times and adjusted. Yeah. Sounds like you adjusted quite well. Are you seeing things starting to come back or normalize?
Chinatown's a little interesting. I think it's still not there yet. I think Chinatown is indeed, for lack of better words, a tourist destination of sorts. We thrive when people come visit. And until that happens, I don't see things getting better.
Right. Even with the announcement, I believe that they're going to bring back indoor dining in a couple of weeks.
Indoor dining, 25% for Valentine's Day. I think that will help a little bit. But, once you go indoors, now you have to hire more staff. 25% is really not It's not going to do a restaurant any good. I don't think the numbers make sense until 50% indoor capacity. And mind you, Chinatown are all these old buildings, and the sizes varies, right? And like, what does 25% mean for like a restaurant like Namwa in Chinatown? That means 18 people. Based on the occupancy. Mm-hmm. And I think in a lot of restaurants, it's even less than that because, they might be like a 40-seater. That's only 10 seats. Or like it might be a 20-seater. That's 5 people.
Some with less, yeah.
So 25%, hey, you know what? I'm not going to complain. But it just, you basically kick the ball down the road. And it's like, okay, all right, 25% indoors. Maybe they've got like a little outdoor setup. And takeout and delivery people are supporting because, that's been like a big thing for me is like supporting Chinatown, and people are still coming in and they want to support Chinatown. They're taking takeout. They're sitting outside in the cold. And with that combination, maybe it makes a little sense. But until 50% or more, it's going to be a little hard.
I can't help but feel that a lot of politics were being involved here on a high level, and I think that restaurants got short end of the stick.
Oh, we got shafted.
They definitely, yeah.
But the way I see it, so I have a very like unorthodox thought process on this, and that is it's really unknown right now, right? Like where people are talking about the aerosols out of your mouth that you can, like with COVID and all that. So like, I can't blame the government officials for like taking these measures, right? To help calm these numbers down, right? But the news is telling us that, hey, transmissions in restaurants is still very low compared to like in-house gatherings and whatnot.
Right.
So I don't necessarily like blame our government for shutting it down. I think it's an answer to a bigger problem, right? And like this is one of the steps because you are eating and then you got your mask down, and we all know mask saves lives, right? I think we can all agree that the mask thing is indeed a thing. But on the other side, I also feel that the restaurant industry has gotten out of control. Restaurants now are, everyone wants to open a restaurant. It's the cool thing to do. Oh, I'm going to go open a restaurant.
Is it?
Well, I think the last 10 years, with like the cooking channel and Food Network, similarly to us telling our parents like, hey, dad or mom, I'm going to go open an ice cream shop. I'm going to go open this little whatever bakery, or we sell snacks, or we've got one, we do banh mi's, or we do like
cookies.
Like the restaurants or like food stores that sell like that one thing. Mm-hmm. Or like we just do French fries, or we just do waffle ice cream. And like, listen, I'm not talking shit or anything, but it's gotten out of control, man. Like everyone wants to open a restaurant. Like they think it's like easy or something, or like, oh, there's like a lot of opportunities. And it's almost like the stock market. Like I see this as like a stock market crash. And then
Like
because
so you're saying there's a restaurant bubble?
yeah, I totally feel that there's just too many restaurants. There's too many options. You know, like everyone wants, because they have this creative thing, or like they have this one item that can be an Instagrammable item. And because of social media, everyone wants to get into the food business because it's either cool because it's on TV, or like, oh, it's very Instagrammable. They want to make some money. They want to make some quick money. But this restaurant thing isn't for like the faint of heart. You know, it's like it's a tough business. A lot of competition. Rents are high, food cost is high, labor is high. So you know what? I in some senses I think the pandemic actually it popped that restaurant bubble a little bit. And listen, I get it. You know, we're all struggling. The restaurant industry got shafted, but I don't think a lot of people in the food business should be in the food business to begin with.
Now that you mention it, I mean, it just crossed my mind, and I didn't even realize it. How many friends I know personally that open restaurants?
Hey,
whether
you know
it's
what?
desserts or something
Listen,
high end.
you know what? I'm not here to like talk shit, but it if you looked at it, I mean, you know, the way I look at it, it's just too much. It's too much out there right now, and like, you know, where like competing ice cream shops, you know, or whatever, or like a hot dogs, whatever, you know, but it's just a lot. And like the consumer has a lot of options, like, you know, even on like the real estate front, like what does retail do anymore besides restaurants? Because you can't be like a hardware store anymore because people are going to Home Depot and like they're ordering from Amazon. So you're almost forced to like for commercial space be food concepts. And when pandemic hits, like everyone's is going crazy because you can't really go eat anywhere. And then everyone's crying now. Oh, the food business is you know, where it's so hard right now. I'm like, well, it's hard because there's so many people doing it. And you know, prior to COVID, it's like, man, it's so hard to find like a good chef. It's so hard to find a good like food worker, you know, because there's just too much. There's too many restaurants.
So the business has become so saturated that it was actually made it more challenging to find the best talent.
Yeah. So I think actually, like,
It's interesting.
I kid around when I say this, but there's some truth to it. But you know, post-pandemic, like I think it evens out the playing field a little bit. Like, you know what? I will have a bunch of resumes from people looking for work that are in the food sector because a bunch of stuff just closed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, for as a survivor of sorts of COVID, not me getting it, but like as a
business
restaurant
owner
group surviving it, there's going to be a lot of opportunity in the near future with just real estate or labor, because those are the two.
So the spoils go to victors,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, the businesses that can't pivot their business from a indoor dining, or what I saw was mostly like some businesses did pop up during the pandemic and some restaurants too.
Yeah.
But the way they approach it is more of like, okay, this is a new time. This is how we're going to serve people. So we're going to pivot the business towards this way.
Right.
And the businesses that can't catch up, they're going to disappear.
Well, most of the business that I've heard of disappearing are the ones that couldn't adapt to this changing time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's another big one. You know, similarly to us, you know, 2020, you know, challenging for everyone. I think for us, we made huge pivots as a restaurant group, and one of the biggest pivots that we made was moving our food into frozen. And we were able to, the business is how do you make money outside the four walls of the restaurant is what I'm thinking in my mind in the middle of the pandemic. And we were able to pivot into frozen foods. And right now we have over 8 items that we have frozen. And we have a nationwide service that takes our frozen products to all 50 states and we've hit all 50 states.
Does it go into supermarkets?
So
Or-
not yet. We're not in like major supermarkets yet, or I might not even actually. That's not my target, but we're able to do e-commerce into frozen dumplings through our nationwide service provider Goldbelly, which is
Goldbelly,
yeah,
yeah.
that's the service.
So
that we
they're the
use
distributor.
yeah, so they through e-commerce we're
Yeah.
able to use Goldbelly to get our products all 50 states into people's homes. We are in approximately, and this number grows every week, we're in approximately 10 retail locations. And this is our frozen product in specialty supermarkets. Like, there's one in Brooklyn called the Meat Hook.
The
there-
butcher shop.
Yeah, butcher shop.
Yeah.
So our items are in that store. We are in a place called Serene Green out in Sag Harbor, Long Island. We are in Foster Sundries, also in Brooklyn. So there's a bunch of these like little specialty shops that have our products. So that was the major pivot for us as a brand over this pandemic. And a big kudos goes out to my team for making that stuff happen. Because in my eyes, as a 42-year-old, like what we charge for these things is not like what I would. It's too expensive for me. But there is a market for it, and there are people buying it. So this is what my team has taught me, really. And like they transitioned from like like from social media and like chefs to logistics and sales, and this is big props to my team and the youth of my team to be able to make these changes within this past 12 months to a business that is very, like, we see legs to this going forward. Like,
So there were no talks about this prior to COVID?
No.
This
I mean,
is
like,
as a result of COVID?
yeah.
Wow.
I mean, there were some like talks. Like, I was always like toying with the idea of Goldbelly, and like we had like the packaging. Like, a lot of small businesses, what they don't understand is like the power of branding, right? And all of like how things look, the look and feel of things. And I think I do a better job of that.
I think you do a great job of that, actually.
But we had these like pouches already, like ready to be made because I wanted to try it. But like COVID really like ramped that up like quicker to get them and like to put our stuff in bags and to send out. So that was a major pivot. And honestly, it's I'm a goddamn hustler, man. Like I saw opportunity like throughout COVID where I just started targeting like apartment buildings. Like I would pick up the phone and I would walk my neighborhood, and I live in Fidei, and I would walk my neighborhood, and I would go and talk to the doorman. I'm like, hey, who's the management here? I'd love to offer takeout for the building, where I basically on the technology side, I can make like a ordering form, send it to like the building manager. I'm like, hey, 180 Water Street. This is we're doing a takeout service for you today with drop-offs at 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. In return, we're gonna give free dinner to your doorman. And the management people basically, oh wow, that's awesome. Like this can be like no fees, because like
An extra perk for them.
no fees. I will do the delivery. And we would do thousands and thousands of dollars in business where I take my car, every day was another building, and we would do 2 drops, 6 p.m. dinner, 8 p.m. dinner.
Wow.
And all done on like a...
This is during COVID.
This is during COVID,
Wow,
yeah.
wow.
All done on like a Google form. Every apartment, what they want, we would individually bag it, and I would take it to the building, hook up the doorman. Yo, good looks. Here's some free dinner. Or like they give us an order on the order form, and take care of the building manager and the doorman, and now I got 40 orders for that day or 60 orders for that day.
Wow, you're unreal. Instead of, and rightfully so, I could see how so many people could feel helpless and just kind of wait it out and wait for it to pass. You did the opposite. You said, no, there's opportunity somewhere.
Yeah, and it keeps going.
How did you calculate that? It's kind of like blowing my mind, because the natural human way to think is like, oh, this sucks, and okay, and that's it, and you kind of went the other way. Totally.
Yeah.
And it's very spontaneous. It sounds very spontaneous. And you're just jumping at all these opportunities that ends up working out. How do you calculate that?
I don't know. It's just part of my DNA, man. Like I think this is just the entrepreneur's mindset,
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, like it's just being able to use technologies for our advantage, and like with that opportunity, we started hitting up the same building managers, like, hey man, like your tenants can't use the gym, can't use the outdoor space, or can't use like the common areas in the building.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you offer, we can do a cooking class for the residents in your building.
Wow.
So that was such a gangster move, and it wasn't even my idea. It's one of my Barbara that works for me, work with us.
You got an excellent team. You got one hell of a team.
Yo, we basically door knocked. Hey, you should offer this as a not incentive, like because you can't use the gym and stuff. Your what are those things called? Like amenities. Offer this cooking class to your tenants as an amenity. We'll sell you the kit, the steamer, the pork and shrimp mixture, the wrappers, all the mise en place, or like the little things, the scallions, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Sell you the kit for $40. Hey, let's get on a Zoom. This date, this time, I'll have a chef.
And that totally works, because my wife she was so hyped about learning how to do cold press coffee. She had a virtual class where they sent her the kit.
Yo,
grounded up coffee, the whole press and everything to do it. And she had a virtual. She was so stoked about it. She's like, I can't wait. And I'm just like, you're just learning how to do a cold press over there. But there's something about it, and then the packaging, like you were saying earlier,
the branding.
It was just so intimate. And then I couldn't wait for her to finish, because I'm a coffee head, and when I had it, I was like, man, that was good. And now I'm a customer, because when I tasted the coffee, I was like, man, that is some smooth stuff there.
So
it's
yeah,
genius.
so we it's $40 a pop, and we even learned how to do like this setup. Like we're not from like this world, and like we not me, but like my team, like kudos again to my team. We got all the camera equipment. We got the ring light.
This is where you do the setup? The Zoom?
No. We do it upstairs.
Oh, upstairs.
But we were able to adapt and like learn how to do this. To go on. We got the mics. We got the wireless mics. Like we were we were like pros, and with the ring light, and I did a whole bunch of these like Zoom virtual cooking classes, and we were keeping our customers engaged. We were having dialogue, and they're buying our frozen product, and that's the pivot, and
you're also selling merch, you told me earlier, right?
Yeah. This is if you're watching this on YouTube, like this is our like part of our merch. Like we have all our T-shirts, we've got pins, we've got sweatshirts, all the boxes for it.
And what made you think of that? A lot of people in the restaurant business, I don't really see them expanding to this level. I mean, you have a lot of boxes.
This is not even all of it. This is just part of it.
And earlier when we came in, we saw, I think Patricia, she was just killing
we're
all those labels.
Yeah, we're getting ready for this week's like Go Belly and all the merch. But the merch we've always had merch, like T-shirts and stuff, but we really expanded our offerings to different, like more merch. And I was never a big fan of it, because I'm like, hey, I'm a restaurant, man. I sell food, not T-shirts and stickers.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, like I I listen. I listen to my staff. I listen to the people I surround myself with, the entrepreneurs that I surround myself with, my mentors. I am a yes person again. Like, I will try anything once, and so far so good. I think we got through, the gist of the pandemic, like, relatively okay. Like, we're here. We're healthy, we're safe, and with vaccine stuff coming in, like, I think we see some light at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, I mean, 2020 was
Shitstorm.
interesting. Yeah, it was very, very interesting.
Now, listen, I wanted to ask you this before, but I think I got the answer to it, because you said you were in the corporate world, and I was wondering if any of those skills are transferable, and it looks like it did. Your sales acumen, it seems like it helped you navigate, especially in the last year.
Yeah, I'm very, very sales focused, and definitely that's definitely what I've learned from an office setting. But I honestly think it was also just in my DNA as well. Like, I think I'm from a kid, I remember, like, selling baseball cards and, like, comics and I still remember, like, I would make these, like, origami, like ninja stars, and, like, I would sell them, like, 10 for $1. So I've always, like, loved making money, and that's just one of the characteristics of being in a restaurant business or being an entrepreneur, is, like, to make money. How do you do that? And I'm just doing it with food.
Now, it seems like a lot of the things you did in your past led you to all of these moments, and it's helping you survive it, and not only survive it, but actually thrive in it. And you're getting excited with a lot of these changes, and you're embracing it. Do you think everything happens for a reason?
Wow, that's a good question. I think to a certain point, things happen for a reason. The other parts of it are, I believe luck has to do with a lot of things. Also, just being in the right place, right time, but also just head down and grind. I think that's the main focus. Like, if you don't put in the time, you're never gonna get that result that you want. And Can you say that again? If you don't put in the time, you'll never get the result that you want.
Preach, brother. Preach.
Yeah. And call me old school, man. Like, I'll take that all day, because I will grind it out all day. And I love talking to the young kids, not kids, like the 20-year-olds these days, and like, my phone, I can, like, look at this, I can buy, like, this Bitcoin, or, like, that was a good podcast too.
Oh, thank you.
I can buy this Bitcoin, blah blah blah, and I'm like, or flipping sneakers, right? Is another big thing for millennials and younger, and I'm like, that's cool. I mean, like, I don't see any there's no pride in that, but I'm very prideful of what I built and what I'm doing. Whereas, like, you can flip sneakers, great. You can make $1 million, great. But, like, what else is there aside from that? And I think that's the difference.
Yeah, I think for those people, it's about the hustle. They may have started as because I know a lot of sneakerheads and sneaker flippers. I think for them, they found a way to monetize something that they love, and that's been a huge part of the sneaker culture. And it doesn't look like it's dying. It's
only getting better. Yeah.
So power to those people, because I was a consumer of the Jordans.
You're the demand side.
I mean, you still can. I mean, like, we all. I mean, I think it's fine, but, like, don't get too crazy over it, right? Like, I do it. Like, I'll Jones over a pair of sneakers all day. Like, it's normal.
Yeah. So I can't help sometimes. When I had so many moments in my life where they were extremely difficult, extremely challenging, and to the point where I wasn't sure if I would be able to pull myself out. You know, I was just so deep in shit. And life does that to us. It wasn't even a situation that I may have created. It was just, I just kind of fell in it due to my surroundings.
Mhm.
It was almost like unavoidable. And I had two options. It was either to stay down and let it consume me, or fight and claw and kick and just work my way out of it. And it took a lot of hard work. And I kept moving. And when I got out of it, the best case scenario for me at that time was that I didn't die there. And that I get the opportunity to continue living, right? And fast forward to my adult life, I had so many situations where if it wasn't for that experience, I would have blown out of proportion. And it made me go, this is small potatoes. This isn't that. No, that was hard. This is a tickle. This is nothing.
Yeah, and I get those tickles now. Like that's nothing. Like I've been through way worse.
And it helps you to not
Yeah.
overreact. I think that's key, or become overly emotional.
But that happens with age too. Like, you know, I don't consider myself old, but like I'm experienced. You know, I've lived, you know, like a life where I've seen a lot of things, and it's managing those expectations or managing the risk of sorts. So, you know, I think, you know, the older you get, the more wise you get. So, you know, and you've made those mistakes, and you know, there's definitely mistakes I've made that I'm never doing again. So it's a constant learning scenario, and I'm always learning. I think there's not a day that goes by that I'm not learning something, and I just got to keep at that as long as I can.
Yeah, you mentioned something about luck. What is that? What is that? I mean, a lot of people don't believe in it, and a lot of people do. And I'm here listening, and I'm trying to define what is luck for you. I'm trying to figure that out. Is it something that's really out there, or the way people in the past look at it? The gods are with you, right? Or
Some people say that you create your own luck. Like
Yeah,
you create your own
I'm
opportunities.
more on that. Like I create my own luck. You know, just having the mindset, and or just being a good listener, you know, can create opportunities that wouldn't have come my way. So I think it's more like what Norm's saying. It's not like, oh, I'm wearing this lucky Buddha and like I go to the
four-leaf clover.
yeah. It's not like that, but like it's just like, okay, let me look at the options and like just doing it. And then if I do it and if it doesn't work out, great. I learn from that and let's move on.
So hard work equals luck.
In some degrees, I would
Because
agree
without that hard work, you would never have been in a position to receive that.
Correct.
So essentially starts with hard work, and then there's several things in between that, but end result that luck had to play a part in it. But if it wasn't for that hard work, the luck would have never even...
Yeah. And you know what, this is the type of topic that I can talk about for hours, you know, because hard work means different things for different people, you know, and like as we're as a society in this upward mobility society, like, hey, you know, like it's normal to like move up in society, right? Like, hey, you're doing better than how your parents were doing, and
Sure.
they were doing better than their parents, right? So, you know, I think that the younger folks really need to like look at their opportunities and figure that out and make a very clear decision.
Now, I hear from a lot of younger folks because I do listen a lot, and it's very interesting when I speak to the folks that are in their 20s just getting out of college, to the folks that are already more established in their careers in their 30s and 40s, our age bracket, and then our seniors, you know, our parents, grandparents. And there's a huge difference in thought and what hustle means.
Right.
Because what I consider hustle, my mom and dad would consider a layup. It is nothing to them. And what kids in their 20s consider us hustling, they may contribute that to a toxic mentality. What are your thoughts on that?
I strongly agree. Like you said, toxic is already. I mean, like it's. I mean, we can take this any direction, but like, you know, the first thing I think about is like mental health, right? Health, and you know the stuff that our generation goes through, and like it's just like, oh, okay, it's fine, sweep it under the rug, it's fine. But like, I think the folks that are in their 20s now, like, they're very quick to like point those things out, and those toxic things like mental health, and like they're very quick to like, you know what, I got to do something so that I don't get into that rabbit hole of you know, negative thinking or just being in a bad spot. Whereas for me, like, I've been there so many times, and like I spend so much time thinking about that. Whereas now it's like, okay, I'm not going to think about that at all. It's because it's going to take me to a different place. And I give props to the young folks on that, because I definitely can't do that. Like, I will get deep into it before I'm like, okay, let me pull myself out.
Yeah. I give them a lot of credit, because they seem in some areas more self-aware.
Yeah.
Where they can stop themselves. You know, just speaking, I'm speaking extremely broadly here, but that generation seems to be doing better than our generation in catching toxic behavior. Because even now, like, just if you take the version of me in my 30s versus the version of me in my 20s versus the teenage version, you'll see a huge growth in mental health.
Yeah.
Huge growth in mental health. Whereas before, I would let just the negative self-talk consume me, where like, oh, you can't do that, or you're not good enough, even though I was clearly the best one, or clearly qualified. But for some reason, it was like, you can't. Like, for example, if it's just, I use this example all the time, but if it's just running a mile, the first 3/4 of a mile, my brain's going to go, this sucks. You can't do it. It hurts. You know, your legs are going to break. It starts talking all this shit. And this negative self-talk, and it kind of goes with so many, and I don't know if this is something that happened early in my childhood for this voice to be so strong throughout my entire life. Actually, it's up until my 30s, where it just tells me these things like to quit, to stop. I'm not qualified. Don't do this. Don't go up to her. Don't try and do this. It's safer here. Just be comfortable here. Just be comfortable. It's always trying to put me in a position. Just eat that. Don't work out. Put on the TV. Just relax. Just relax. And I'm having this conversation with myself, and a lot of the times, I mean, and that's just I'm giving you the G-rated. Mm-hmm. The R-rated, you know, the ones that is like, hell no, you suck. And this is really self-defeating talk, where I have to just sometimes go, now that I'm older, I catch myself. I'm like, no. And I'm just like, you're awesome. You can do this. And I start looking at everything that I've accomplished and be like, nah, none of that shit is true. Look at it. Look at my resume. Yeah. Look what I'm able to do.
I think the point I want to make with that is that feeling is really from our parents. Right. I have a big feeling. I'm a firm believer that you're a product of your environment, and if your parents are telling, oh, don't do this, don't do that, oh, you can't do that, oh, you're gonna get hurt, you listen to it,
right?
And I think so. What I can say, Will and I, as dads, what we can do is really inspire our own children and give them like the keys, like, hey, go try that. You know what? Do that and see what happens. And really unlocking that for our kids, because we're dads now, and we don't want them to be subjected to what we grew up with. And that's honestly all I can do at this point in my life and my career as a dad, as a mentor, is to do my best with the next generation. Because honestly, like the 20-something year olds, the 30s, like, I can't change their minds anymore. Like, they are how they are.
Right.
And I can't change that.
Yeah.
But what I can change is my own kids.
Right.
You know, and like that's
I feel the same way.
that's what my wife and I really are focused on right now. It's like, hey, if you take on the path of raising children, you need to put the time in to make sure they grow up to be decent human beings, because we're all attached to the phones and like all of that stuff, and they can get into like, you know, a bad place with, you know, like being social to like taking, you know, like all the bad things that can go on with the internet stuff. But I think for us, it's really as parents, we have to assume that role and encourage our children, and that's how I think change can be made.
Yeah. How do you fight that inner dialogue with yourself?
You know, it's an ongoing thing. I mean, like there's going to be bad days and there's going to be good days, but I look at it where like, hey, if the good days are more than the bad days, like that's a win, you know, like, and I'm going to take that all day. Yeah. Because like you can't stop the bad days. They're going to happen.
They're
like,
going to happen.
Yet, you know, something's going to break, someone's going to quit, or you're going to lose a bunch of money. But I got to look at the good days too, you know, and like make sure those are accounted for. Like, you know, we were talking about like the 10 years of Namwa, right? And like, hey, like this year sucks. Yeah, we made pivots, but I had like 9 great years, and I can't let this pandemic like consume me, because I can go into this downward spiral. Like, and I have over 50 employees. Like if I get down in a rut, they're going to get down in a rut, and like the screws are going to start coming off, and you're going to get really deep into like a toxic place.
Right.
So I have to stay chipper. Like, hey, good job, guys. Like, hey, you know, we didn't make any money today. It's fine. But you know what? Tomorrow we will. You know, when it's sunny tomorrow, we're going to crush it.
That is such an underrated leadership quality.
Have to do it. I mean, like if every day, oh man, oh, we didn't make any money. Oh, we lost money today.
Then
oh,
that's going to make everyone feel that way.
Yeah, and then like no one's going to hustle. You know, no one's going to, no, we're not doing any more of those like cooking shows.
All they'll be looking for another job on the low.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, building a team is of the, you know, all those entrepreneurs out there that are listening, you know, you are only as strong as your team. And if you can't build a team, there's really no point. Like you know, unless you're like a self-employed person, like, you know, if you're like a CPA or like like a lawyer, and like you can work at your own pace. You know, you can take on this many clients.
It's funny because you were telling me that you're not into team sports and you play basketball, because we're both you know, I guess we're rare. We're both over 6'3".
Yeah.
You're actually taller. You're like 6'4", 6'5".
Hey man, someone's got to be taller than you.
When I came in and I saw you, I was like, holy shit, he's taller than me.
Damn.
I was like, I love it.
When I first came in, I was like, damn, this guy is taller than Will. Dude.
I was like, I love it, man. I was like, that's awesome. I mean, I don't have to slouch when I'm talking to you.
It's funny. I mean, like, you know, I think, you know, there's all this like how most CEOs are like tall and stuff. Like, I'm like, that's fine. Like I listen to it, but like that doesn't mean a thing to me. Like, I think I think it's to my advantage because like, hey, I'm more noticeable, and like, hey, I'll take that spotlight right away. You know, like if, hey, you want to give me the spotlight, I'll take it. But yeah, I mean, you know, as far as restaurants concerned, Chinatown is concerned, you know, we can all use a little more. You know, we're not out of the negative stuff yet. There's still a little bit to go, but you know, for me, it's like I look at the positive. Again, I gotta stay positive. You know, 2020 was technically like the centennial celebration of Namwa. We didn't really get to do that.
That's amazing. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
100 years.
100 years. We made this cookbook to coincide.
Too. It's making me hungry.
This
I know what that all tastes and smells like.
Yeah.
I love the design, the branding.
Yeah. But you know, this cookbook was really a celebration for our 100 years that, you know, we kind of didn't really do, but maybe we can do it this year. But other ways to support us is, again, we were talking about merch earlier. We were talking about our cookbook. This is really not just a celebration of the restaurant. It's not a celebration of what I did or what the restaurant did. It's really a celebration of the community. Inside this cookbook, not only are there recipes to our our dim sum and our Cantonese style feast, it really talks about stories of other mom and pop businesses in Chinatown, like Boeing Hong on Elizabeth Street, which is like a supermarket in Chinatown. To there's to Wing On Wo, which is a porcelain shop, the oldest porcelain or general store in Chinatown on Mott Street that sells all sorts of like trinkets, ceramic, things like that. Multi-generational.
I love Chinatown, man.
Yeah. To to a seafood wholesaler called Aquabest on Grand and Christie.
I think there was a Time Out New York article on it.
Yeah, so I'm super proud of this book. It's it came out at a bad time, but I think it really uplifted the spirit of Chinatown and the restaurant. And yeah, it's in the times of darkness, I think about the cookbook. The ways we hustled this in 2020 to get more business, to the pivot to frozen foods. So those are the wins that I'm gonna keep talking about, and I'm not gonna like dwell on like, oh man, business was down 80%. Oh my God, what are we gonna do? I'm gonna keep doing stuff like this and figuring out how to bring in revenue in our current landscape.
Do you feel there's always a way?
There, I mean, like, yes,
a big lesson.
Yes,
to take
there
away
is
from
always
that,
a way. Like, never give up is my motto, and I think I proved that. Like, we just didn't stop. Like, we just kept going at it and making sure we can, like we were even doing like COVID catering jobs where like we just basically package all the food in a bag, so that everyone gets a bag instead of like, if you're in an office, like you get the catering and like everyone like scoops up their food and they eat. But hey, we just did COVID packaging. Like, hey, everyone's got their own bag of food.
How long did it take? I love the cover of the book. How long did it take you to?
This was a year's worth of work to get the stories, to get the recipes down, to get the photos.
Yeah.
Getting the right publisher.
That's important.
Yeah.
Chinatown battling two fronts, and I believe not just COVID and lack of foot traffic, but also gentrification.
Yeah.
How has that played into, I guess, your business and your environment?
Well, for gentrification, it's inevitable. Change is inevitable, and what I can say about that is that I will do my part in slowing it down. So what I mean by that is, I have the oldest restaurant in Chinatown. I'm going to keep it that way for as long as... Quite the title. Yeah, I'm going to keep it that way as long as I can. But hey, at some point, it's going to change. I'm not going to be here forever either. But, you got to make the best out of it. And I'm doing my best right now as the gatekeeper, or like as a person running the place. But that's things like that. You can't stop it. You gotta like just roll with it and adapt to it. And I think we did a pretty good job. Like as a Chinese restaurant, the oldest Chinese restaurant in Chinatown, to be able to be worldwide, meaning. We've had customers from all countries, to being this tourist destination, to even opening Namwas in China. Like that
what?
is.
You have a spot in China?
We have 2 locations in China, in Shenzhen, and think about that. Like we're a American Chinese restaurant serving American Chinese dim sum back in a country where it was that it came from.
You're serving foreign food in China, and you're serving foreign food in America. That's
So, I'm super proud of that, and we will continue to do things like that and evolve and
let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that food. What is Chinese food, right? Because we come from immigrant families, so so every night for dinner we had what was considered to a lot of purists real Chinese food. But what is real Chinese food? Because to the majority of America, real Chinese food is popularized, Americanized Chinese food that you and I also grew up with.
Yep.
With the store down the block or our family's restaurant, right? So being, whether it's from the immigrant background or being identifying as an Asian American or Chinese American, like what is real?
So my answer to you is, it's whatever you want it to be.
That's the safe answer. Come on, Wilson. Not a politician.
Well, I'll use a dirty word, fusion, right?
Okay.
And and I don't like using that word, but it's progress. It's basically, we're in America. It's all kinds of ethnicities and all walks of life. So for me, what is real Chinese food is it can be anything. Like, I can do like beef and broccoli. Is that real Chinese food? Like, but it's real to me. Like, I grew up eating that.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Like
a lot of people grew up eating that. So did I.
Yeah. So like, to me, that's real. But like to like a guy that's from Guangzhou that, that works in the city and like, that's not real Chinese food for him. He's like, what the hell is like beef and chicken with broccoli? What's a egg roll?
General Tso's chicken.
Yeah. So,
which I love, by the way. I love General Tso's.
That stuff is
chicken wings with fried rice,
right?
All day over here.
Yeah, with the duck sauce. Like that's not real Chinese food for like Chinese people from China. But we're in a world where technology. It's so technology driven that. It's what you make of it is what I think. Honestly, like I'm happy to have. So let's name a dish that's real Chinese food. Like I don't know. Like
I don't know. Is shrimp and mayo sauce with pecans? Is that real Chinese food?
I don't know. I think
it's served in the banquets, so I assume it's. It's part of that.
Well, I don't know if it's so. Like we can get very technical. Like is mayo but mayo is
true.
Is more American than Chinese, right? So that's a big like fusion of sorts, right? Mm-hmm. And honestly, like I think about we were talking about like how we eat at home, and it's constantly it's a mashup of my wife is Chinese, our kids are Chinese, but like we'll make fried rice, but like we'll have also like soy sauce chicken from like the Chinese barbecue spot.
Exactly. So what's real Chinese food to our parents, to us, to our kids, I think will differ vastly.
Well, here's the thing, man. Like, I think at the end of the day, food is what brings people together. So, we're talking about like, if I eat at my parents' house or something, and like my mom's making a steamed fish, like with the sizzling oil,
the green onions, ginger.
So that's good, right? But like, I can bring like a baked ziti to it also. Like my wife makes a banging baked ziti.
Oh yeah, my wife makes an amazing lasagna. So, shout out to the wives.
Yeah, shout out to the wives, and I mean like it. At the end of the day, it's coming together to eat and spending time with each other, which is what restaurants are mainly for, right? Like it brings people together. So you said earlier, like that's a safe answer, but it's so honest to me, like what is authentic Chinese food? Like it's whatever.
So you're not a purist.
No, not far from it. Like, so I can tell you why I'm not a purist, is because Nam Tea Parlor, dim sum restaurant, Cantonese style, our number one seller is a soup dumpling. And that's not Cantonese style.
not
That's
at
like
all.
Shanghainese,
Shanghai,
you know,
yeah.
but like, hey, you know, we've got what's the other thing? Shoot. We
Egg
have
rolls?
not egg rolls. We do have egg rolls, but the other thing is
Shilai.
the scallion pancake.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That's not like purist Cantonese dim sum, right? But people love that, and I'm gonna sell the shit out of it because, like, hey, on a business side, if I can make these things and they sell, I'm gonna go with that because you know what, the food cost is low. There's no seafood in it. It's just pork, or like, you know, in case of scallion pancakes, it's just
The
flour.
margins are great.
Yeah, margins are great, and I'm gonna throw the purist idea out the window. I'm for profit, you know, like, hey, you guys, if the American palate wants soup dumplings, yo, I'm gonna give you soup dumplings. Like, call me whatever the hell you want to
Give
call
the
me.
people what they
yeah,
want,
give the
damn
people
it.
what they want. So, you know, back to the question, the original question, like, you know, what does real Chinese food mean to me? Like, yo, it means like whatever the hell you want it to mean. And why can't you mix mapo tofu with dim sum and like with some other, you know, like tripe or whatever, you know, like
So we have a mutual friend, Leland.
Leland, yeah.
And he started cooking, and when he was on the podcast, he was telling us how he mixes all sorts of cuisines, and and that's his biggest challenge, is to figure out what cuisine from different nationalities would fit into one meal, one sitting.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, yeah, we've talked about that too, and you know, this is mainly from his upbringing, like what he was exposed to, what he was cooking, what he likes to eat, what tastes good to him. And because he's Cantonese, right? He's Cantonese Chinese. He's got those familiar flavors, and how do you mix it together?
Yeah.
So that more ABCs like us can understand, right? And
That's American-born.
American-born Chinese,
So,
and I see that as a great idea. It's
Yeah, I
because
think
like
so too.
there's a lot of us, you know.
'Cause, you know, I was telling Leland same thing. Like, I'll have fried rice or Chinese food, and I'll whip out the jar of kimchi.
all day, man.
Right?
Kimchi fried rice.
Yo, last
You know?
night I just
Or
had.
even, I'll even steam rice. I'll throw some kimchi on it.
Yeah, speaking of kimchi, last night I was eating at, I got takeout from this restaurant called Golden Diner on Madison, you know, on the outskirts of Chinatown. That restaurant, Golden Diner, is run by a Korean American, Samuel Yu, who's a chef. And they did a collab last night with another friend from the restaurant Saigon Social, which is a Vietnamese restaurant from Chef Helen Nguyen. And so last night's mashup was, she had this shrimp, fish cake, and tapioca noodle soup, like noodle soup with kimchi in it. And
Yo.
that was so bomb. like the, you know, like Vietnamese broth, how good, how rich it
Yeah,
is.
So good.
Yeah.
But that kick of kimchi, mind blowing. And if you know, that collab was just last night, like this past for Friday and Saturday night. I don't know if they're doing it again, but I have a picture of it on my Instagram for those who are on Instagram. But that was so good, like a Vietnamese bowl of pho, like not pho noodles, but like that broth with the noodles and the shrimp and the fish cake, and then bam, just a little bit of like kimchi. Like, wow, game changer.
Yeah, that's why I'm all for mixing, as long as it fits, and mixing the different cultures of food. And you could just, if you can marry it well, I think it'll get me excited. I think people get excited about trying it.
Hey man, you know, don't take my word for it, but bridging cultures is where it's at for the next, and for the immediate future.
The evolution of cuisine.
I don't
Yeah.
disagree at all. However, I know that there are some
There are going to be
purists
purists
are going to
balk at this idea.
they're going to listen to this like, oh, I
don't
hate
know
these
about-
guys.
I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. Purists, yeah, I respect that all day, but I think they're going to be outnumbered.
I think so. I mean, look at all the food trucks. A lot of the food trucks was a big mix. Corilla, right? They had
Yumpling is a big one.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's where
Corilla
it's at.
was Korean and Mexican, right?
Korean
Like
and Mexican, and it was the bomb.
Mhm.
It was like the first time I had something like that. It was just these new flavors that I was experiencing from these food trucks.
Yeah.
And this mix match, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, and they did it well.
Yeah,
Right?
It's a good product. I've had
Yeah.
it before. Yeah,
And then you're just like, okay, then it becomes like its own category. You don't look at it like it's Korean / Mexican or whatever you're tasting. It becomes so normalized where you go, this is whatever that is.
I'm telling you,
That's why
bridging
with
cultures,
Chinese
man.
with Chinese
Yeah.
food, I don't disagree with you, even though it is the same answer. Not the answer that I expected though. I thought you would have hit me with the purest stuff because, considering you have the oldest standing dim sum restaurant in Chinatown.
but the other topic we talked about is about adapting, right? And if you don't adapt, you're gonna get left behind. And I think as an entrepreneur and like a restaurateur, you have to see what the people want. I was throughout the whole podcast, I'm telling you like, yo man, I don't think this will work. It's too expensive, but I'm listening, and my team is telling me, yo, we should go this direction. I'm like, yo, let's try. If it doesn't work, all good. But if it works, wow. Another avenue for making money, staying relevant. Even like we're just doing things that will get people excited. You know why? Because there's just so much noise out there. You almost need to do something new to like get yourself at the top again. Because we talked about this earlier. How many restaurants are there in New York? So many, thousands and thousands. And how do you set yourself apart if you're not constantly innovating, creating something new, mix matching these like different like cuisines together? That's the only way to really survive when there's so much noise.
A common theme that throughout this podcast is that you listen to your team. Now, a lot of people in a position of power would feel like they don't want to share their power totally. So when someone else in their team has an idea, they want to quickly dismiss it because they feel like, if I listen to you and go with your idea and it works, it in a way usurps me and takes away my power or my appearance of it. And I know a lot of people play that power game. I see it all the time in the corporate world.
Mm-hmm.
How did you have that awareness to go, you know what? It's not about that. It's about something else much larger than, I'm going to share my power. I want to hear your ideas. And you know what? If it's good, I'm going to implement it. Was it a role model that you saw that worked, or did you see someone do it in that sense where it didn't work, where there was a fantastic idea and they passed up on you and you're going, whoa, I'm not going to be that guy?
It's actually, the answer is very simple. It's to have no ego. I don't have an ego. Like I am.
But was there someone you looked up to that didn't have an ego that gave you, somehow you had to learn that somewhere? That's a skill. It's not like breathing, whereas you just you're born breathing, or it's something that you learn. Right?
Yeah. It would definitely be just empowering people. My ability to, find these people, because that's the key to a successful business, is to building a great team. And I think for me, my vetting process of finding the right team members is where it starts. It's like finding the key people, and then how do you keep them? How do you make them happy? And I think I've kind of figured that out.
Asking the right questions.
Yeah, asking the right questions, and empowering the people, and almost being okay with the mistakes. Let me rephrase that. Actually being okay when mistakes are made. You know what? We've made tons of mistakes. We ordered the wrong stuff. A million things. But like, I'm not gonna yell and scream like, "Oh man, like what the hell? Like, how can you do that?"
But what if it becomes chronic? 2, 3, 4, 5.
So if it's chronic, then hey, this is not a mutual good relationship, and one of us needs to go.
Yeah.
And I think that's mainly it, man. Like I really,
So the first ones are free. First
yeah,
one's free.
yeah. First one's free.
Get a free a jail-free card.
Yeah,
there.
and I think it's just also another big thing is like not micromanaging. Like I don't micromanage at all. I am just very soft touch, but like, hey, if I mean something, like make sure it's done.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, I don't want to be in that
Don't take me
conversation.
lightly,
I
yeah.
don't want to be in that conversation where like we're in here in this office. Like,
Yeah.
hey man, like
What the fuck?
Like,
Yeah.
like don't take kindness for weakness type of
Yeah.
attitude towards running your
right,
business.
but I think I'm very giving in most senses. Like 98% of the time, I'm like, yes.
And that's tough in the restaurant business, by the way.
Yeah.
And most of the I guess the environment in restaurants, from what I hear, because I used to work with a lot of people that either worked in restaurants or owned it, it was extremely toxic.
Yeah, it's most of them are because it's basically a very low margin business. You know, it's you're not making much money opening a restaurant. Like it takes a lot to really like make it.
Now, what do you look for when you're interviewing someone?
So, you know, I've been very lucky to build a core team that actually came to me. I never really had to like.
So word of mouth. It's like, hey, Wilson,
Yes.
I know a guy, Norm. He'll be great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna connect you with him.
Or Norm heard about me, and it's like, hey, man, like I think you're the type of guy I want to work for. And honestly, like that's another thing. Like I say with luck, I think about this fast casual location, and this is like just real talk. Our first chef even like my business partner in this store, Z, we've known each other for 20 years, and he was in corporate, and you know, he's like, hey, Wilson, like you're like, you know, what you built is like pretty awesome. Like, hey, like one day I you know, like we should talk. I'm like, hey, anytime. And we opened this in 2016.
This location here.
Yeah, and he was like he was in technology, but him and I just were kids when we knew each other, and I trust him, and like he's got like this killer work ethic.
Oh, I love
And
that.
it's very similar to mine. Like, so it's yes right
Yes.
away. But he has no culinary. Neither do I. I don't have any culinary background. Lo and behold, like through Instagram, I meet a young chef. His name is Calvin. And he has moved on to work at Winsun. He's like the chef de cuisine at Winsun restaurant. It's a Taiwanese eatery in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And he's going to be moving on from there to open his own restaurant soon. But we met, and he was able to take our fast casual concept and really hone it in as far as people development, setting up these procedures, opening, closing, food stuff. And I matched those guys together, and it was, you know, it was a hit. Like it worked.
The chemistry was there.
Yeah, chemistry was there. And then when he moved on, our second manager, like almost managing chef role, Julie, she knew me because her best friend was cousins with my friend, and she knew about the brand, and she sought me out, and I'm like, oh well, we don't have a position for you right now, and I'm like, I'll call you, or like we'll figure something out, and then somehow I scooped her. And now she essentially runs the show here. She runs this place.
Look
like
at
she's
that.
the one that does all the Zoom classes for like the online stuff. She's the one that sets up all my demos, like all the catering jobs, and make it nice.
Yeah.
And almost 8 years ago, Barbara was a big fan of the brand. And Barbara has a 9-to-5 in sales, and she came on like wanting to just do our social media stuff. Like, all right, here's some money, like a couple $100 a month. I post our Instagram, and then her role grew into almost like our marketing CMO. Like she runs all the marketing.
Look at that.
Like all the operations. She sets up like all.
Everyone's shooting their shot.
Yeah, like we have this thing called Asana, which is basically like everyone's on this platform where you know what's going on. Like she set all that up, like just solid like people. And also in 2017, like my cousin joined the company, and slowly but surely he grew to like managing the tea parlor. So I've just been like lucky in some senses to like be able to curate this fine young team, and it's off to the races. Like what do we want to do next? And like through this pandemic, we really crushed the frozen stuff, and I think we're gonna move more into that. Like I think Norm was saying about supermarkets earlier. I'm like, hey, that's a big goal of mine one day to figure out. And if I can talk to the right people and like do like maybe get into the VC world and hey, get some money and like build out a thing, and that's what I'm focused on, like going forward.
What you don't hear is creative ways that people are taking to succeed in this environment where it doesn't look like there's any way, but you found a way. But I think that's just incredible. Yeah, and you contribute that to such being a good listener and having such a strong team. And yeah, you're damn lucky, man.
Yes.
How do you have so many hardworking, talented individuals that just kind of fall in your lap?
Yeah,
well, it's also about cultivating that talent, right? So like when I listen to you, it's like you have to listen to your people, right?
100%.
And also the fact that you are a mentor to some people. Does that experience come into the play when you meet candidates?
Absolutely. I am very, my wife hates this, but like I'm very giving of my time. Like, even like with, this podcast, I'm like, yes, yeah, let's figure out a date. Let's figure out a time.
I saw that right away we were talking about, and we're like, oh shit, he's following us on Instagram. And then we're like, all right, cool. Yeah. We'd love to have him on. Norm and I talked, and Norm's like, yeah, I'll reach out to him. I was like, cool. Let's do it.
I love it. I love promoting Asian American culture. I love
Same here.
I love what's going on in Chinatown right now. All the resiliency, and not just with myself. It's not about me. I'm doing okay. But it's about all the we the whole podcast we're back and forth about the youth, right? But I want to end this with by saying like there is a lot of potential for the future. Like we've gone through a lot in 2020 from like BLM stuff to like president stuff. Like we've gone through a lot, and I think we will keep pushing as Asian Americans to get our voices heard, and like I love what the folks are doing in Chinatown with all the grassroots approaches with Welcome to Chinatown and Send Chinatown Love. Like they are crushing it,
They really are.
These are big deals that are going on in our community, and I just love being able to know these people, and I feel proud to be part of that community where everyone is fighting for their survival.
Last thing before we let you go, you were in the corporate world, and you used to work in the former Twin Towers.
Yes,
in the World Trade, WTC.
Yeah, well.
And you were actually there on September 11th?
Yes. 9/11 survivor. That was a very a memorable day, and really something that made me think about my career and how I can't be in that environment. I'm more of a social being, wanting to help, wanting to be part of the mix, and not back office style. But that was a really good awakening for me. I almost died that day. So
were you there in the first tower?
I was in the second tower.
Oh shoot.
Yeah.
So wait, so when did they start telling you to exit the second tower? Was it after the first plane hit?
Yes. Yeah. After the first plane
Did
hit,
you hear like a loud boom?
I heard, it's funny. I remember thinking, like, where I was sitting, I can see like my boss's office, the window, and I remember seeing like paper like fly all over, and the first thing I thought about,
outside the window.
yeah, outside the window was like just like
Looking like big confetti.
like,
just
like
flying.
what I
Right.
thought. My first thing that I thought was like, when the Yankees won the World Series, and we're in the Heroes of Hero of Cannon, and all the ticker tape parade, and like how upset I was because I'm a Mets fan.
So am I.
Yeah.
Oh, we're the rare breeds.
Yeah, I'm a Mets fan, and I'm like, oh my god, the Yankees and
Yeah,
the World
again.
Series again. And that's my first thought, and that's when the first plane hit, and I saw all this like debris and flying stuff. And very shortly after, it was like, hey, we got to evacuate. There's a fire or something. And then like, I was on the 74th
So it was really
floor.
casual.
Yeah, super casual.
Seemed like a regular fire drill.
Yeah, normal fire drill. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, we got to go. It's like a fire drill. I'm like, okay, I can go down to that. I'm like, all right, cool.
What floor were you on?
I was on 74.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So 74 was you take an express to 44.
Uh-huh.
Oh, sorry. 74, you take local to 44. 44 is there's express. So 44 is like
44 is expressed down.
you can get an express from 44 down to the first floor.
That's
so,
a bad luck number for Asian culture.
Yeah. Tell me about it. But I was able to get to 44.
How? Just regular
elevator down to 44, and then from 44 we had to walk.
You had to go 30 stories down to
Wow.
44.
Yeah. So I took a
How did you manage to get there? There was everybody was super casual.
super calm, super
Wow.
casual. Fire drill.
No one was like, I'm playing before, like,
So
get the
as-
hell out.
I don't know
you-
if anyone had communication at that time, right?
Right. There's no social media.
Right
There's no
next-
Twitter.
Oh, shit, that's right.
But
Yeah.
what I remember was very casual. I was eating breakfast at my desk, and I saw this thing. The fire alarm went off. Fire drill. And then as you start going down, you like the noise was like, oh, like a small plane hit. No big deal. But we got to evacuate. And then, from 44, I took the stairs, and then that's when it got a little more. The further down you go, the more serious it got. And then, like, I saw firefighters start going up the stairs. I'm like, oh, that's so weird. But in the teens, they were saying, like, okay, it's safe now, Tower 2. You can go about your business.
Like, go back to your office?
Yeah, you can go back to your
Holy
office.
What?
But by that point, I'm like, I'm at 6, like I'm in the teens. If I got out to use the elevator, I would be like local, like to go
All
back
the way
up.
back
So I'm gonna
up,
go
yeah.
all the way down first before I go back up. And then at that point, I was like with coworkers. Oh, I'm gonna have a cigarette downstairs. I'm like, all right, cool, I'll join you. And I'm like, all right, let's go down all the way first. And when I went all the way down, I'm like, yo, that don't look good, man. Like, and then that's when, like, the more time that passed, like, all right, everyone evacuate. And that's when I walked to Chinatown to like let my dad know I was okay, because like we didn't have, like, I think I had a cell phone, but like
So
it wasn't working.
you left the whole scene after the first plane crash.
Yeah,
You didn't even
yeah.
wait for the second.
Nah,
Before you were like,
yeah. But when the second hit, I was already gone. Like I was like walking towards Chinatown already.
you weren't. So were you thinking, like, oh, what if my boss gets mad at me for not being back in the office?
I was thinking that, but like I was definitely thinking that, but like it was almost like, oh, like I
Or did your Chinatown instincts, your spidey sense was like, hell no,
yeah, I'm
this
not
is
going
crazy.
back up, and I think they would understand, like something bad happened, and like I think at that point I was like a young naive kid, like there was not like, you didn't have like a cell phone with like text, like you can't do any of that stuff yet, So my first instinct was just to walk to Chinatown, because like my cell phone wasn't working, and I couldn't call anyone, and I remember seeing this big gaping hole in the first tower, and
Was there anyone panicking?
Not when, like, no, people were
You
just
didn't even
walking
see
away.
people- What?
Yeah, people were walking away. Maybe like I had like tunnel vision or something.
People weren't freaking out in the first tower, like.
Maybe I think I have like very selective memory from it. I just remember, like, I was just very in the zone. Like, okay, I remember what I did, what I wore. what shoes I was wearing. I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot my bag upstairs. Like, I just left. Like my breakfast was still on my table.
Oh my gosh.
And those are the things I was thinking about, because like I didn't think big picture. I'm just like, oh shoot, like, oh well, it's okay. Like I guess like we'll get a couple hours off. Like, I was like a new kid working at a firm. So like, if I can like weasel a couple hours, I'm like, all right. Well,
did your coworkers go back to the office?
Well, it was still early. Like it was like before.
So you guys
9.
all kind of played hooky. Like,
Yeah,
hey, we got a great reason.
Yeah,
And a cigarette break.
Yes,
Why not? Let's just keep booking it to Chinatown.
Yeah, and that was pretty much it. And as you got down and you're walking like on Church Street, like then it started like while you're walking, it like things start, like your senses, like oh, all the ambulances and like people rushing toward the building, and like when you see all that stuff like rushing to it, like my instincts was, all right, I'm out. Like there's too much commotion going on here. I'm gonna go away and watch from afar.
Yeah.
And I think this is like back to like our culture, right? Like, oh, don't do that. No, leave right away. Or hey, don't, if you see danger, don't run towards it. Run away from it. You know, and like I think
I should listen to my parents. I always
sometimes. Right?
I always go sometimes, but in that sense I did the opposite. I always go towards the danger.
Yeah, so I listened and I'm like, all right, well, that doesn't look cool. Like let me walk a little further, and then but at that point, then like you don't get the immediate, like I'm thinking about like how technology like changes, right? Like you didn't get all that. Your phone didn't blow up. Like all this stuff is happening. Mm-hmm. So like as you walk, you hear more, and like, oh, I heard it was like a Cessna plane, like the
small ones,
the small ones,
private planes, yeah.
And then like, oh no, it wasn't. It was like a bigger plane. But I remember looking that far up, like the hole was really small.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, the hole was super small, and I'm like, oh, that's all right. I guess some people died. It's like, all right, it's tragic, but it's not the end of the world. Mm-hmm. But like the further away I walked, I'm like, holy crap, it's not like, that's when like every TV is like CNN, mm-hmm. and then you see like the plane go into the building, and then you realize like, oh wow, that was like a terrorist attack. And mm-hmm. then like the second plane, I'm like, holy cow, thank God I was like I left, I booked.
Do you know people that's been
no, luckily like my floor was good. Like everyone
made it out safely?
was safe, but like company wise, like there was definitely like a couple of deaths, but not in my area. And like I was just too young to understand it all. Like it's just I was a kid. I was like, what, 22, I think?
That's crazy. Yeah,
22, 23, and I just wanted to like hang out and like not or if I'm getting paid and not have to work, like awesome. Yeah. I still remember like when we moved to like our offices in Harborside, like we were able to like claim like what we lost. Like I'm like, oh man, I had this Coach bag, I had like these Dr. Martens shoes, and I was making sure like I line itemed all the stuff that I left in the office to make sure I got my money back. But that was that
sandwich.
Yeah, like that was where my mind was at as a 22, 23-year-old, and it wasn't so much like
it wasn't looking at the full scale of the
so when you were walking away, the plane didn't, the building didn't fall yet.
No, it didn't fall till like I mean,
bro, if the building fell, it would have been.
No,
so
I mean like you could be like
out.
walking and then started falling. You could feel the.
I was out
You were gone.
Yeah,
because he would have talked about the ashes covering.
Yeah. I mean, that's people in Chinatown felt the rumble, the crash.
Yeah, I was gone already. I was like at my dad's like office by then already, and this is like past 9 o'clock. I was already in Chinatown already. So
anyway, Wilson, you got the book, Namwa book, cookbook. You got the virtual cooking lessons on how to make and prepare Chinese food, dim sum.
Yeah, you got a lot going on.
All your restaurants, we wish you luck with everything. And
thank you.
Very inspiring, and I learned a lot during this podcast about the restaurant business. But not only that, how parallel it is to just the human psyche in terms of working hard. It's the same formula.
So important.
Wilson, thank you for coming on and sharing.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
This is Lucky Boys.
We out.